The air in the lawyer's office smelled of old books and new money, a scent I would come to know intimately. I sat on an uncomfortable leather chair, my knees pressed together, my black dress feeling too thin, too cheap for this room. Grandpa Arlo's lawyer, Mr. Henderson, had a voice like gravel rolling downhill. He'd been reading the will for what felt like hours, a dry recitation of trusts, foundations, and charitable bequests that echoed the vast, quiet generosity of the man I'd just buried. Then he cleared his throat, adjusted his glasses, and looked directly at me. To my granddaughter, Eleanor Ellie Vance, the light of my later years, who understood that silence is not empty but full of answers, I leave the entirety of my remaining liquid assets, held in the Alpine Trust of Zurich, currently valued at $7,322,000,000. The number didn't register. It was a sound, a vibration in the overly warm air. 7 billion. It was a figure for economies, for space programs, not for a 24-year-old graphic designer from a one-bedroom apartment in Chicago who bought her clothes from thrift stores and whose greatest financial worry was student loan debt. My parents, sitting rigidly to my left, made a simultaneous sharp intake of breath. I didn't look at them. I was staring at the heavy, cream-colored paper in Mr. Henderson's hands, at Grandpa Arlo's flamboyant, familiar signature at the bottom. The rest of the reading was a blur. The drive back to my parents' imposing Lake Forest mansion was conducted in a silence so thick it felt like a third passenger in the Mercedes. It was my mother who finally broke it, her voice carefully modulated, the same tone she used to discuss problematic neighbors. "Ellie, darling, we need to talk about this windfall." She turned in the passenger seat to look at me. "You're young. This amount of money, it's dangerous. It's a responsibility you're not equipped for." My father, his grip tight on the steering wheel, nodded. "We'll handle everything. We'll set up a series of trusts. You'll have a very generous allowance, of course, more than enough for your little art projects. But the capital must be managed properly. For the family's security." "The family's security?" I echoed, my voice small. I'd always been the quiet one, the dreamer, the disappointment who preferred charcoal sketches to balance sheets. "Grandpa left it to me. He was emotional in his final years," my father said dismissively, "influenced by sentiment. He knew in his heart that wealth of this magnitude requires experience. We are your parents. It's our duty to protect you from yourself." That was the opening gambit, the first play in a game I never agreed to join. The next few weeks were a study in pressure. The money, still a surreal abstraction in a Swiss bank, became a tangible ghost haunting every interaction. My parents' suggestions became directives. Meetings with our financial team were scheduled without my consent. They presented me with a thick binder, a life management plan, that outlined a modest apartment purchased by them, a curated social circle, a suitable, read wealthy and connected, husband to be vetted, and a monthly stipend that was a laughable fraction of the interest my inheritance would generate in a single day. "It's for your own good, Ellie," my mother sighed one evening over a tense dinner at their home. "You have no idea the wolves this will attract. We are your only true sanctuary." But I remembered my sanctuary. It wasn't this cold, perfect museum of a house. It was Grandpa Arlo's sprawling, slightly unkempt cabin in the Colorado Rockies. The summers the first spent there were the only times I felt truly alive. He was a self-made titan, but he'd shed that skin in retirement. We'd hike for hours, saying very little. He taught me that true observation was a form of listening. "Most people, Ellie," he'd said once, watching a hawk circle on a thermal, "spend their lives shouting to prove they exist. The real power is in knowing what's already there." He'd had a strained, formal relationship with my father, his only son. Dad had taken the seed money Grandpa gave him and built a respectable, medium-sized empire in commercial real estate. It was profitable, but it was always about the appearance of wealth, the right clubs, the right cars, the right connections. Grandpa thought it was hollow. He saw in me, the quiet girl with sketchpads, something he recognized. A person who could see the world not just by pieces of it. The breaking point came on a Sunday afternoon. My father summoned me to his oak-paneled study. A transfer document was laid out on the desk. "This is a simple instrument," he said, his voice all business. "It grants power of attorney over the Alpine Trust assets to me. Sign here and all the stress will be over. You can go back to your life. My life funded by you." I said, my heart hammering against my ribs. Controlled by you. Guided, my mother corrected from the doorway. Ellie, be reasonable. This is $7 billion. You can't possibly. I can't possibly what? I interrupted, a sudden unfamiliar steel in my voice. It came from a deep well of memory, of Grandpa's trust, of his belief in my quiet strength. I can't possibly decide what to do with my own inheritance, the one my grandfather willed to me, and me alone. My father's face hardened. The paternal mask slipped. Don't be a foolish child. This money will destroy you. It will attract users and gold diggers. You will be bankrupt or dead in 5 years. We are trying to save you from that. Now sign the papers. I looked at the document, then at their faces, no longer pleading or pretending, but stark with avarice and frustration. They weren't seeing their daughter. They were seeing an obstacle standing between them and a fortune that could elevate their status from wealthy to globally powerful. I picked up the paper. I didn't tear it. I simply placed it back down on the desk, aligning it neatly with the edge. No, I said. The word was quiet, but it filled the room. The silence that followed was volcanic. Then it erupted. After everything we've done for you, my mother shrieked, her composure vaporizing. The schools, the clothes, the roof over your head. This is your gratitude? To defy us? To throw our legacy away? It's not your legacy, I said, backing toward the door. It's mine. My father's eyes were slits. If you walk out that door without signing, Ellie, consider yourself cut off. From us. From this family. You will get nothing from us ever again. Not a dime of support. Do you understand? You will be on your own. The threat that once would have sent me into a spiral of anxiety now felt like a key turning in a lock. On my own. Sounded like freedom. I understand, I said, and I walked out. The war began not with a bang, but with 1,000 paper cuts. They froze the bank accounts they still had access to, the ones they'd set up for me in college. They canceled the credit card they'd insisted I carry for emergencies. They called every family member, every connection, painting a picture of a fragile, unstable girl manipulated by grief and suddenly dangerous wealth. I became a project to be contained. But Grandpa Arlo, in his infinite, quiet wisdom, had anticipated them. Mr. Henderson contacted me. The will had provisions. There was a separate legal fund, managed by his firm, to cover any costs associated with establishing and protecting the inheritance. He also gave me a sealed envelope, handed to him by Grandpa a month before he died. In my barren new apartment, paid for with the first cautious transfer from Switzerland, I opened it. His sprawling handwriting filled a single sheet. Asterisk Ellie girl, if you're reading this, they've shown their hands. Money is a magnifying glass. It makes the good in people warmer, the cruel in them sharper. Don't fight them on their battlefield, boardrooms, lawyers, social leverage. They're better at it. Fight on yours. What do you see that they don't? What is quiet and true and needs a guardian? Be that. The money is just a tool. Use it to build something they would never even think to look at. And for God's sake, hire some real security. Love, Arlo. Asterisk. His words were a compass. I hired a formidable, discreet security firm. I also hired a ruthless, brilliant lawyer of my own, a woman named Sophia Costa, who took one look at my parents' tactics and smiled like a shark. Emotional and financial coercion, attempted undue influence. We'll have fun with this. But I took Grandpa's advice. I didn't just play defense. I needed to build my own offense, my own purpose. I remembered the hawk circling. I remembered the silence of the mountains that was full of answers. And I remembered something else from my summers, the small town struggling near Grandpa's cabin, the artists, the craftspeople, the guides, people with rich skills and empty pockets, watching their communities be bought and hollowed out into vacation resorts for the ultra-rich. I didn't just want to give money away. I wanted to invest in silence, in beauty, in things that didn't shout. I created the Arlo Vance Foundation. Its mission was deceptively simple: to identify and sustain pockets of authentic, creative, and sustainable living. We bought forests not to develop them, but to protect them and hire local foresters to manage them sustainably. We purchased historic, failing Main Street buildings in small towns and turned them into rent-free co-ops for artisans, with the foundation covering utilities and upkeep. We funded microloans for organic farms, for indie bookstores, for blacksmiths, potters, and weavers. We set up scholarships not for Ivy League business schools, but for trade schools, forestry programs, and fine arts degrees. It was chaotic, personal, and utterly unlike the sleek, tax-efficient philanthropy of my parents' world. And it began to work. Slowly, quietly, a network of thriving, resilient communities began to form. The press, initially obsessed with the billionaire heiress versus her parents' saga, started to take notice of what I was actually doing. They called it philanthropy with a soul. My parents called it hippie nonsense and financial incontinence. Their attacks escalated. They filed a lawsuit, challenging the will on grounds of undue influence and my own lack of mental capacity. They sold the story to a tabloid, complete with manipulated photos from my teenage goth phase and quotes from family friends about my instability. The day the lawsuit was served, I stood in my foundation's office, a sunny loft overlooking the Chicago River, and felt a wave of despair. Was I the fool they said I was? Was I throwing Grandpa's legacy away on whims? Then my assistant brought in the day's mail. Among the legal threats was a handmade envelope. Inside was a card embroidered on cloth. It was from a collective of textile artists in West Virginia that we'd funded. It read in beautifully stitched letters, "Thank you for seeing us. Our looms are singing again." Taped inside was a tiny, perfect watercolor of a hummingbird from a nature illustrator in Oregon whose work we'd published. I wasn't throwing anything away. I was planting. The court case was a spectacle. My parents' lawyers painted me as an impressionable, grieving girl, prone to eccentricities, vulnerable to the flattery of sycophants. They presented my foundation's work as reckless spending, proof of my inability to manage wealth. Then Sophia put me on the stand. She didn't ask me about numbers. She asked me about Grandpa Arlo. She asked me about the hawk. She asked me what silence meant. She had me explain in simple terms why I chose to fund a glassblower in Maine over a portfolio of tech stocks. Because, I said, my voice clear in the hushed courtroom, the world has plenty of tech stocks. It may not have that glassblower's particular vision of light in another 10 years. My grandfather believed that preserving unique beauty was as important as generating wealth. More importantly, in fact, wealth is a tool. Beauty, craft, community. That's the point. She then entered into evidence the financials of the Arlo Vance Foundation. The numbers told their own story. While administrative costs were minuscule, the economic impact on the communities we supported was staggering. Jobs created, historic buildings saved, local economies revitalized. It was not charity. It was a radical, humane investment. The final blow came when Sophia called Mr. Henderson back to the stand. He produced a video recording, a supplement to the will, made by Grandpa Arlo 2 weeks before his death. The judge allowed it. On the screen, Grandpa looked frail, but his eyes were fierce. "If this is being viewed," he said, "it's because my son and his wife are trying to take from Ellie what I gave her. Listen well. My decision was deliberate. I love my son, but he sees money as an end. Ellie sees it as a means. She sees what is invisible to most. I am not giving her a fortune. I am giving her a toolkit. And to anyone who would try to take those tools from her, know this: you are arguing against my clearest wish. You are not protecting her. You are robbing her. And you are robbing the world of what she might build." The video ended. I didn't dare look at my parents. The judge dismissed their case with prejudice. The aftermath was not a clean victory. There was no reconciliation. My parents, their fortune still considerable, but their reputations tarnished, retreated behind the walls of their world. The family was fractured, perhaps forever. The loss ached, a hollow space where parental love was supposed to be. But I realized it had been hollow long before the money. The inheritance had just forced the truth into the light. The money, the $7 billion, was still there. It was now truly mine. But it felt different. It wasn't a prize, it was an engine. My foundation grew, but its heart remained small, focused, personal. I still lived simply, though without fear. The security detail became a normal part of life, a buffer against a world that now saw me as both a target and a curiosity. One autumn, a year after the trial, I visited a small town in the Smoky Mountains. We'd helped restore a historic mill that now housed a papermaker, a potter, and a violin maker. I was walking along the creek, the sound of the water a gentle roar, when I saw it. A hawk perched on a bare branch, still and watchful. I stopped just as Grandpa had taught me. I didn't try to think. I just watched. The hawk's fierce, calm presence filled me with a profound peace. The silence around me wasn't empty. It was full of the creek's song, the wind in the pines, the distant tap-tap of the violin maker's hammer, and the steady, powerful hum of a world I was helping to keep alive, one quiet, beautiful thing at a time. I had refused my parents' demand. In doing so, I had accepted my grandfather's challenge. The money hadn't saved me. My refusal had. And in that refusal, I had found my voice, my purpose, and a kind of wealth that no one could ever seize. Thanks for diving into Ellie's world with me. Her story is a reminder that the greatest inheritances aren't always the ones with the most zeros, but the ones that give you the courage to say no and the vision to build your own yes. If you found a little inspiration in her journey, consider this your invitation to hit that like button and subscribe. Why? Because right here we believe every story holds a quiet power waiting to be heard. Tell me in the comments, what's something you've had to say no to find your own path? I read everyone. Until next time, keep listening to your own quiet truths. You might be surprised at how loud they can roar.